player moving AMP out of the news world. It was created for newspapers and blogs and all of the static content on your website. Right now, people is starting to do funky stuff with AMP. For instance, you can see on the example, eBay is adopting AMP for the whole site. So every time you will go to a page showing you a product and the price and description and etc., it's going to be an AMP page. It's going to be super fast on mobile. It's a good experience. So this is the speed part. And the rest of the engagement, you want the users to come back to your content, etc. This is what PWA is for. The second on the 4 step that I mentioned was engagement. You want the users to come back. You want to pass this toothbrush test. And the key part in PWA is progressive. We were moving from applets to web responsive, etc. The new wave, it's going to be progressive. So progressive web app is basically offering these 4 capabilities for regular web pages. The first one is local caching. We didn't have access to local caching in a web app. Now we can do that with the PWA. It was impossible to work offline with online content. Right now, if you use PWA, you can do some form of combined with the local caching. You can start storing information if the sees reviews, writes a review, etc. They can do that offline, and when it connects, you can synchronize. You have to do the magic. That's probably the most complicated of the functionality here, but you can do it. I mean, you can do it now in an Android app or iOS app, etc. But you have to do different apps, and it's more expensive. If you have a small team, and you have to choose between going native or web, probably this will give you an edge because it's going to work everywhere. You can add it to the home screen. You can add your web page. You could do it in the old time. If you remember, you could say, put this web page on my home screen. But it was like a trick performed either by the operating system or by the browser. Right now, this is part of the standard. And if it's supported, it's going to work exactly the same as any native app. So you get an icon. You can define on your web page what icon to use, what to store on the device, as if it were an app. So you can store your logo, for instance, all of the frame for your web pages. If you have 3 or 4 different pages, you can store the background that goes behind each of the 4. So you can store strategic information, and of course, the JavaScript that animates these 4 operations. So it's going to be a mixture between, it's going to be local content that connects to the web and gets the rest of the information. And finally, you get push notifications. The magic behind PWA, it's a very small piece of code. It's JavaScript code. Again, you know about this. It's called Service Worker. This Service Worker is being created by another collection of organizations and the community. It's an open project. It's already in GitHub, so you can get the content, see how it is written, how you can use it, etc. But it's super easy. If you don't want to get messy and understand how it works, you just have to import the service worker into your JavaScript. That's it. You already are progressive. Obviously, if you want to do a better job, you have to probably refactor some of the code and do some other cleaning. But the idea behind this is very simple. Your app is going to interact with the service worker, and the service worker is going to understand. For instance, if you are using the service worker for offline availability, what is going to happen is the service worker, it's going to know that it doesn't have connectivity. Probably you're in airplane mode, or you are not connected to the internet. So it will start saving every interaction in local in a local cache. And when it gets connectivity, it will do the thing that, hey, this user did all of these activities while we were disconnected, and that's it. You don't have to do anything weird as a user. I don't have to do anything. It just works. I'm just saying, yes, add this to my cart, add this to my cart, put this in the whatever node, etc. And when it gets connected, it will synchronize with the server. Right now, the only major player that is not supporting PWA, it's Apple with Safari for mobile. We know that they are working and considering the idea, so I'm confident that it will happen. We don't have a final date, but worry not, because even if a user gets your PWA app on Safari, it's going to work. Since it's JavaScript, it's only being recognized as, I don't know these procedures, and that's it. You have alternatives. So your web page will continue to work on Safari in iOS. So no problems there. It's going to be, simply it's not going to be progressive, but that's only a small issue. These are a couple of examples. This is AliExpress, which is one of the top Chinese competitors right now. They went completely PWA, and they saw a 74% higher engagement across the board in all of the major browsers. I don't have the second number, but they also saw a 104 highest conversion rate, increase in conversion rate. This is Flipkart, another app that you probably don't use because it's Amazon for India, another huge company. And this one is very interesting because in 2014, they are huge, like India size, so huge. They went completely mobile. They have amazing Android and iOS apps. Actually, if you go in your mobile device right now to flipkart.com, you can see the web app, and it's going to be a progressive web app. So it's an amazing experience. I recommend you to do it. But if you go from a high-end phone, it's going to suggest the native app because it's also great. But after they did the move in 2014, their conversion rate flunked. It didn't work. And they started understanding that most of the Indian users didn't have enough space on their devices to download the big, complex app. They were not connected to the internet all the time. So they backtracked, and in 2016, they launched this new web version. You can see it there in the animation that after visiting the site, somebody put the phone on airplane mode, not connected, and you can still browse, see reviews, add stuff to your cart, etc. So they are using the offline service worker for this app. This is another example. I wish all of the airlines that I have to use were like Air Berlin. This is the second largest airplane company in Germany. And they realized something that it's like not magical, but they realized that most people travel just once, twice a year. So it's crazy to force these very rare users to download your app. Actually, probably you have done it. You download an app because you think, when I need this, I'm going to use it. And then when you really need it, you go to Google, you search for stuff, and you search for stuff, and you click on a couple of web pages, and you never remember that you had the app. That was happening to them. So they created this very friendly web app. It's a progressive web app. It's super fast. Loading time under 1 second. First loading time. It's so fast. They also are using the notifications, the notification service worker. So probably you have also suffered this when you have to do the check-in 24-hour, 48-hour before. You never remember, so you have to go and make a huge line at the airport. These guys send you a notification. Your check-in is ready. And if you want to do the check-in, you just click on the notification, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else. They know it's you because they send a notification to you, to your phone. They don't have to ask you for your name, your passport number, those silly things that you hate to put every time you have to travel. So they are doing a good time. This happens all the time. Typing on mobile is hard. Entering your email, password, God forbid somebody asks for password today, but this is the typical checkout process. If you are selling stuff on the internet, probably you're familiar. Your process might look something like this, especially for first-time users. You review the content for a couple of weeks, and you add the stuff to your cart, and when you're ready for checkout, they ask you for your name, your billing address, delivery address, credit card information, CCV, etc. So the sad thing is that 97% of the people, this is a global number across all of the retailers online, 97% of the people abandon their carts because it's hard. It's not a fun experience to try and complete this on the mobile phone. So there are two things that you could use right now and could help you and save you from this. The first one is use one of the sign-in technologies. There are a bunch of options. We have one that you can use to do Facebook sign-in, Twitter sign-in, GitHub sign-in, Google sign-in, etc. But this will save you from having users registering with email and password and etc. And there's this other API. It's another open source project. Hello. This was sent to W3C, which is the organization behind the standards for the web, and it's been recently approved. So there's still very few sites using it, but it's a web payments API. And when everyone is using this, we as users are going to be so happy, because once you get the web payments API, you will enter your credit card information just once. It's going to be stored in your device. It will never leave the device. It will never go to the different places where you pay using this technology. They will exchange information somehow, and they will do the charge for the credit card, etc. The protocol is very secure, and it's open source, so it's going to be a great experience. But the idea is that once you get to the checkout process, it's going to be like one click. I want to pay with this card or this card. A couple of clicks after, like this, and you're done. Finally, the notifications, which is the retention. You want to get back the user to your app when you have something cool to show. I was telling you about the Air Berlin. There are two things that are going to happen automatically. Once you visit at least 2 times, separate times, website, progressive website in the same week, your device is going to offer you the option to install that as an app in your device. So you will see this. You want to add this to your home screen, and then you get the nice app. And the next time you click on that, you will get directly to the web. Can you see the difference between right and left? The difference is that here, this is a browser tab, so you get the browser address, and you can go to some other part of the web. And here, you don't see the browser. It's just the progressive web app. You cannot leave this to go to google.com or Facebook. you would have to go to the browser. This is no longer the browser. It's just the progressive web app. And if you see that in your mobile phone, you will not know if it's a native app or if it's a web app.
Can I ask,
Yes.
when new ads come in, how much does the ads affect the speed?
The ads?
Google ads.
I don't.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say part of the revenue of your app is run by ads.
Sure.
How does that affect?
Not at all. It's still your same web page, and you can add any ad server to your homepage, and it's going to show there. It will continue to be your web page.
And it will still have similar speed?
Yeah,
Okay.
same. Exactly. The only things that get stored locally are the service worker JavaScript. For instance, in this case, the color, the framework, the HTML to create this framework. But the content, that comes directly from your servers. So it's almost the same experience. What about what? That's the, in the case of offline, you will download more content, but you can decide how much. For instance, in the case of the Flipkart application that I mentioned, they pretty much know what you are going to search for. They have your wish list. They have all your experience with the site. So they will download strategically. You have to decide that. That's the tricky part. If it's a not so big site, probably you can download everything. But if it's a huge Amazon size catalog, you cannot download everything. So probably you just download the top offers for that user, the wish list, and a few other things that you think that might be interesting for the user. But you have to decide that. Bless you. These are the notifications for Air Berlin. And believe it or not, Facebook was one of the early adopters of PWA. They have amazing native apps for Android, iOS, Windows Phone, etc. But they also have an amazing web experience across the board. And it's a progressive experience. So I don't know how much time you spent on Facebook, but well, I can tell you, probably you spent 45 minutes because that's the standard in Latin America per day, or 2 hours. It's a crazy, huge number. So big that now there's a trend, at least many of my friends and colleagues are deleting the Facebook app from their mobile phones so that they can focus. Every time they go to the phone, it was like a magnet. I have to open Facebook. Even if I didn't want to, that was not the reason why I came to the phone at this moment. They ended up opening Facebook. So they deleted Facebook in order to improve their productivity. What they didn't know is that once you go to Facebook on web, if you visit it 2 times, it's going to offer you, hey, do you want me to install this progressive web app on your, and they end up doing the same. So they have notifications on the web. They will ask you for permission, the same as any native app. But once you approve the permission, the web page is going to get access to the notification system, and the service worker will do the magic of showing you the notifications. So right now, with this technology, what we are doing is we are getting this very cool reach we had with mobile web to the same level that we offer with native apps. It's probably not as beautiful. I was telling also before that operating systems for mobile get updated every 6 months, and you always get nice new tricks, nice transitions, animations, etc. That will not translate to your progressive web app, at least not now. So it's probably not as beautiful. But if you have to choose between doing 3 different apps or just one, if you only have money for one developer team, go mobile and go PWA. It's probably the safest way, and you will at least get a very solid, consistent experience across all platforms. And this probably is the next question you will have. Can they both coexist, AMP and PWA? And the answer is yes. I'm just going to show this example. This is the Washington Post. This was also one of the founders of the AMP initiative. They are very active. Their developer team is amazingly good. So this is a very typical experience for the Washington Post right now. When you visit Google and search for Trump, Hillary, or whatever, you will get eventually a page from the Washington Post. When you click on that, you get to their to the AMP page. You see the news. But on this hamburger menu, they packed their first service worker. So when you click on that menu, what you get is you get the service worker installed in your phone and the menu for all the sections in the Washington Post. And after that, when you click on any of the sections, you get to the PWA version of their website. It's no longer, could be AMP or not, doesn't matter. It's already their AMP version. And when you visit the Washington Post at least twice in that week, you will get the notification, hey, do you want me to add this Washington Post to your home screen? And if you say yes, then they are happy because they have now another probably frequent customer. These are the links where you can get more information. Both projects are open, so source code will be found in GitHub. There's even a very cool extension for Chrome. It's called Lighthouse, and you can download the extension, and you can click it on any website. You can go to your site or whatever other site and click on the extension, and it will tell you if it's progressive and what they are using, or if it's not progressive, why it's not progressive. So this is very simple. Yes?
Push notifications, that only works if you add it to your home screen?
No, they work even if you don't add it to your home screen.
Oh, I have a question, sir. Can you switch it to one instead of two visits? It downloads after two visits, right? Can
After
you switch that to one?
No, I don't think so. No, it's part of the protocol. Yeah.
I'm not a developer, right? But I think about the experience side of it. So from a developer using AMP or PWA, how does that? What was it thinking on Google's side as it relates to the extensions that you have on Chrome? Because obviously, so every time I go online, whether it might be on my phone or on my laptop, I see a push notification to add this extension to Chrome. But if you're doing these in between apps, well, it's not really an app, it's not really a mobile page, it stores on my phone.
Yes.
How does that relate to my user experience? So then if I change my phone or I lose my phone or something, does that mean that I must then, again, I just have to go back to all of these pages that I went to one time and then I have the experience again?
That's an interesting question. I actually don't know. I don't really know. No, I'm gonna try it. I have a new phone waiting for me at the office. I'm gonna try it. I don't know. That's a great question. Yeah, the question is that when you are using, for instance, in Android or iOS, you download a bunch of apps. Obviously, your operating system knows where those icons are, how you like them, you organize them, etc. And when you switch phones, either because you have a new one or you got it was lost or stolen, you just need to get your credentials into the operating system, and it will download all of the apps and put them on the right places. And probably that experience will not happen with these progressive web apps because they were not installed through the. But probably, I'm sure they are considering that. It has to do the intelligent thing, I think.
Obviously, but does it tie into your Chrome?
On the web,
Yeah.
on your desktop, you mean?
No, well, if I'm on the app on my phone, right? More
Yes.
than likely, even if I'm using Chrome, it's still tied into my Google account.
It is.
So does it then tie into like
The whole Chrome
the
experience?
history of my
I think so. Yes.
can
Mm.
see your history. anyway.
Yeah, of course.
Right,
Yeah,
so
that will
it's-
happen, yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, now I'm going to, if you don't have any more questions about this, uh, I will start talking very fast about some of the things we are doing at Google. This is part of a very, very small part of what we are doing in these events I mentioned before, the Launchpad. But I would like to use this opportunity to talk about one of the key foundations of our culture, well, a couple of them, and the OKRs, and probably have you trying the OKRs if you are not using them, so that we can have this workshop session going. So let me, this is the way we refer as ourselves. We are Googlers, and this is what drives Google. The feeling that we are doing not only products for profit and for our livelihood, but also to help others. We really want to create products that improve somebody else's lives or the world lives. And I think that's important because most of the companies we work with are very small, are very young, they have dreams, they want to go big, but they really don't know how. So sometimes it's the very silly, small things that make the difference. And this is what we are trying to do. Right now, this is our company. We are, it depends who you ask. Larry Page always says that we are a medium-sized company in terms of employees. We are only 66,000 employees across the globe. So there's companies with a couple of million, like Walmart, etc. So in that sense, we are a medium-sized company. We have offices in over 50 countries. And you can see here some of this is like, if I had to do a LinkedIn page for Google, this would be it. This is our mission. We are in the world to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So that's important for each and every one of the Googlers in the world. And they have done something really good because we do believe that that's our mission. Still now, we haven't solved that small problem. And we are working now with machine learning and artificial intelligence, et cetera, to try and do a better job. But that's still the mission. These are some of the interesting numbers. We have over 1 billion active users in Chrome, which is the reason I mentioned the two technologies before that. And this is impressive. We receive every minute over 300 hours of content uploaded to YouTube every minute. So even if you decide to watch YouTube for the whole day, you won't have enough time to watch what was uploaded in the past minute. So it's crazy. It's a lot of content. And these are our hobbies: coding, mapping, moonshots, April Fools. We devote a lot of resources to that. It's crazy. Moonshots are we used to have a part of Google that it's called Google X. It was called Google X. Now it's part of Alphabet, this parent company that was created. So it's now simply X. And that was the Moonshot Factory. All of the craziest ideas we had in the company that started probably as 20% projects or crazy ideas, they were part of the Google X, and now it's simply X. And this is the way we talk about our culture. Inside Google, we try to be very open, and we have these three things clearly delimited. Everybody knows how to access them. It's very simple. The mission that I just told you about, it's something that we get repeated all the time, and we believe in it. And once you get a new a Googler or a new Googler, we talk about the mission and why the mission it's important all the time. It's crazy. We have transparency, and Larry and Sergey instituted this TGIF. It used to happen on Fridays at the beginning of the time, but as we started having more and more offices, it got moved to Thursdays. So the TGIF, it happens on Thursdays every week. Originally, Sergey and Larry, they did this 1 or 2 hour conference every week just to tell us about interesting launches, new products, issues we were facing in one part of the world or another, tricky topics, some not as easy, and it's super open. And we have a voice. All of the Googlers are able to listen to what they are saying, but we can also ask questions. We can challenge the status quo, and they actually listen to the feedback. So that's part of the culture. You need to ingrain this in every Googler. In the beginning of the time, this has changed as well. Every time Google opened a new office, it made sure that the country manager or the head of that new office had been with Google at least for 5 years. Right now, at the speed that many of these new offices were open, that was not always possible because we needed a person with enough knowledge of the local market, and probably we didn't have a senior enough person from that country at Google. So that's not always been the case, but that was the idea, or that was the plan. And one of the things that we use to carry that culture on is the OKR, which is objective and key results. It's like KPIs, or there's many other ways to do it. This is our way. It was not invented by Google, by the way. So it's open, and you can read on the internet about it. Basically, this gives you 2 very simple but powerful things. One, accountability. You say, this is what I'm going to do. This is what my team is going to do. This is what we as company are going to do. And if you don't do it, then you can understand what went wrong, where you fail, how you can get better. And the second one is that it becomes a communication channel. When you say, this is what Google is going to do, Larry or now Sundar can say, this is what we are going to do for 2017. It's clear. Everybody hears the message and understands what the mission is and gets to work. So let me give you an example. This is a totally fake example, but I'm going to say that this is real. And go back to 2014 and imagine the founders of Uber discussing the strategy at a coffee table of how to grow Uber globally. They were growing crazy fast at that time. And this is probably how it went. We want more demand, more Uber users asking for a ride. If that happens, then we'll need more drivers. If we have more drivers, then we can get better coverage geographically. We'll have faster pickups if we have more drivers. And we also have less, or this is what we want, because we want to improve the amount of money the drivers are making. So we want less drive downtime and obviously lower prices. This is like for every business. I don't know what you do, but probably when you start thinking this is what we have to do and you start writing on the blackboard or on a paper, this is probably what you end up doing all the time. You want to create this flow. But that's very hard to convey. That's not an easy message to transmit to your organization, to your employees, to your friends, to your colleagues. So if I were to, out of this, we've been able to come up with 4 or 5 OKRs. I'm going to show you just the most obvious 2 out of this. But just to give you a sense of how we work at Google. And using that example, the first OKR that I can think of is if I want to increase the drivers, more drivers. If I want to increase the drivers, me as the founder of Uber, probably what I want is the first key result is I want to increase the driver base in each of the cities that we have Uber by 20%. That's totally doable. We can measure. We know how many we have now. We know how many we'll have by end of year. It's super easy to know if we reach the target or not. The key result too could be increase driver average session to 26 hours per week. I don't know how many hours per week they had before, but I'm assuming probably it was 18, and the drivers were not happy because they had a lot of time of waiting without a ride. So this is also very easy to do. The second, if we want more geographic coverage, the OKR could be increased geographic coverage of drivers. And the first key result could be increased coverage of tier 1 cities. I'm going to assume that tier 1 cities are strategic cities, populated ones like Los Angeles, New York, Mexico City, etc. We want to cover 100% of the possible area and users. I want every user in Los Angeles to be able to open the app, say I want an Uber, 2 minutes after that to have an Uber waiting for them. That would be my ideal. If I were the Uber CEO, that would be my key result number 1. And the poor soul that is in charge of Los Angeles and Mexico City has to find a way to do it. But that's what I want. I want full coverage. For the other cities, the other active cities, maybe minor cities, etc., where we don't really understand what's happening, etc., then I can go with a lower number, probably 75%, and the rest of the cities is like, if somebody wants to start driving in a new city, let's get them on board and see what happens. Finally, I want decreased pickup time to less than 10 minutes globally, because otherwise people get to the street and hails for a taxi on the street. So this is the way we usually work at Google, and this is the way we usually get startups or companies working, because what I realize is that most of the companies in Latin America are not using any form of tracking and showing what they are doing to the rest of the company, which is as relevant as showing to your stakeholders. So what this type of OKR give you is focus. First, you will, not only you, but all of the people in the company will know what's important to you. There's no trick, there's no magic. We care about coverage or more drivers or your business. It's easy to understand goals. One of the tricky parts of OKR, at least for Google, is that you always want OKRs to be a stretch. You want to aim for the stars and land on the moon, and that's okay. So we usually at Google, we have OKRs for company level, senior VPs, directors, etc., until they reach you, and then you have your own OKRs. And the idea is that you always want to be between 70 and 80%, and that's considered like thumbs up. You did a fine job. That's great, because it was a stretch. If you reach 100% of your OKR, it probably means that A, probably you don't know what you're doing exactly, so you put an OKR like very flaky, or you're not aiming high enough, so you're in your comfort zone. And usually every employee in Google decides their OKRs, bring accordance with the manager and the rest of the team, so it's also equalizing. Everybody is doing something that is a challenge, not an impossible challenge, but hard enough so that it's interesting. You don't have a boring job. You don't have to go every day and do the same thing you did the day before. That's the goal of the OKR. So you always want to stretch. And if everybody does his job or her job correctly, that adds to the managers to the directors to the VPs, the VPs to the senior VPs to Google. So it's very easy to track if we fail as company one of our OKRs, or you can always track what's the problem. Measurement-based goals, all of the key results are always things that you can measure. You can start with vanity metrics. If you don't have solid information, you can start with number of downloads or number of users or visitors or whatever. But the idea is eventually to start specializing what you are measuring, how you are measuring and tracking progress. That's the idea. This is the tricky part. Once the OKRs are in black and white, we have a system. Actually, we have a few options in Google. You can put it in a tricks, in a spreadsheets, or we have a system, it's called Easy OKR. You can go to Easy OKR, create your OKR, and those are public. Everyone can see everybody else's OKRs. And once they are there, you can change them, obviously, but that's not the plan. That's not the idea. If you committed to this OKR for the quarter, unless something dramatic happens and your product is closed and there's no reason to continue that OKR. But usually you go to the end of the quarter with that set of OKRs, and then we have a evaluation. You have to evaluate your OKRs, usually between 0 and 1. 1 is like, I did everything or part of it. But how you do it, how you do your work to reach that goal, that's up to you. Nobody at Google will tell you what you have to do. Actually, we don't even have, for instance, jobs like assistants, secretaries, things like that. They are practically non-existent in Google because it wouldn't be challenging. If you have to do the same thing every day, eventually you're going to get bored, and that's not something we want. So this is what I mentioned before. The OKR for the whole organization gives accountability, and that's a good thing. You want to understand if somebody's failing, if it's failing because he or she doesn't have the resources that need to do it could be education, it could be budget, it could be more people, or if it's not the right fit, the person and the job, so you can help them move to relocate to another area, or if it's not a good fit for the company, then they have to be let go. That's usually the last resort because we go through so much pain to get Googlers on board that we don't want to let them go easily. So with that, I want to take this opportunity for us to do the opposite. We want to hear about you. We want to understand what you are doing, what you are working on. This is typically some of the exercises we do with the startups. So I'm going to ask you the same so that very fast we get to know you better. Please write in a napkin or wherever you want, or you can tell us. The two areas of your business, your product, your organization that you would like to significantly improve over the next 3 months. And we'll take it from there. The idea is that those 2 areas, typically what we do in this type of exercise is to help you reach OKR for the next 3 months so that you reach those goals. It's not going to be easy and faster in this occasion, but at least we'll have a good sense of what you're trying to solve, and we can see if there's something at Google that we can do to help you. So it should take you a couple of minutes just to tell us what you're doing. And I don't know about the logistics. We are going to split into.
So I think that what we'll do after we get this to this set of information, what Paco wants to do is have more intimate sessions. So we're going to use 2 rooms, and Tonio, who's been sitting very silent, who is a Google developer expert, is going to join in that discussion. So there's another room called 106, and there's one called, well, here in this room, Sydney Lux, and then what we could do is just literally take two sides of the room. So one side sits here, but is that pretty equitable? One side stays here, the other side goes to 106, so you want to do one of those at number one, number two things. Yes? Alright, so this side of the room will stay here. And Papa, you want to take this room?
Yes.
And Tony will go with the other group to 106. Yeah, you can hold this group there.
Well, probably before you leave, if you have questions or something you would like to know, I have a.
We get any slides for all these things?
Yes, I think I can give you some of these slides. Sure.
But I mean, from the other presentations, I mean, IDB and so on.
And those, well, we have a database to capture the information, so we should have a place either to be sent to you, hopefully, if a little more streamlined, we'll send you to a place where you can find it. Yeah, so we have them here. Right, so get the information down, and then I guess Roxanne, you can show them the 106s. So spend the 5 minutes just to get information down. So you go there and then take that time, and then I'm guided. So, so you can probably have that part. So I'm standing up, apparently this side is worse, yes. Okay, throwing this side. But we'll get it
Entonces,
down
tú
first.
te vas con
Get
ellos
it
y
down first, so
Las
so
preguntas.
that's-
si quieres luego nos intercambiamos.
Jab it down,
Las preguntas es dos áreas que quieran mejorar y que les duele.
Sí.
Nada más para saber
Back
si
up,
es
get
un
the
tema de
slide back
tiempo.
up.
¿Mm?
Get the slide back up so that the question.
Ah, quieren verlas.
Slide with the question.
Ah, sure.
So don't take it.
It's one question with two parts. The first is the two areas that you want to improve
Again, everyone.
and what's lacking. That's
Right, everybody has the information.
¿Cuál es mi rol con ellos? Sí.
So all those
Es
are more than 6, which is
responder
this
qué
group here.
dudas o...
como el mentoring normal, digamos, como si fuera una startup. Así de
Ah,
¿qué está?
atender una vez que ya
Sí.
identificaron esas
Ah,
dos.
sí, platícame qué haces, cuáles son tus problemas. Ah, esta
Ajá.
tecnología, has intentado usar esto, ya,
Va.
digamos ahí. Si no es de tecnología, es un tema más administrativo, pues no puedo ayudarte y
Ajá.
sorry y se los mandamos a... Pero es la idea, conocerlos, saber qué hacen y ver cómo les podemos ayudar. Damn it, man. Shit. ¿Me prestas una pluma? Sorry.